I love you.
I know.
Greetings, fellow cinephiles. I'm Maud Garrett, and welcome to another episode of RT Essentials. This week we are getting to the heart of the matter, to the spark that steers the plot and makes the movie world go round. We're talking about love, and sometimes love is all you need to make a great film. That, and a decent budget, a solid script, believable actors, an astute director, producers, lighting, music. Okay, fine, maybe you need a lot more than love just to make a great film, but all great films do start with a story, and all great stories involve some romance, usually between two characters. Whether those characters are already in love, or they'll soon meet and fall head over heels, or they're together and try to make it work against all odds, we can't help but feel an emotional connection and commit wholeheartedly to their journey. But with so many movies and so many couples, it's hard to know what to watch and who to root for. Fear not, my friends, because once again, RT Essentials is here to save you from your decision fatigue. So without any further ado, these are the most iconic movie couples. Rose and Jack, Titanic.
No, you won't.
What do you mean, no, I won't? Don't presume to tell me what I will and will not do. You don't know me.
Well, you would have done it already.
You're distracting me. Go away.
I can't. I'm involved now. You let go and I'm gonna have to jump in there after you.
Starting with Rose Jewett-Bukata and Jack Dawson, more commonly known as Rose and Jack. Of all the couples on this list and in the history of cinema, Rose and Jack are arguably the most iconic. Partially because 1997's Titanic was a mega hit and became the highest grossing film of all time. That is until James Cameron broke his own box office record with Avatar in 2010. This was also the most expensive movie ever made at the time, and a larger-than-life movie requires a larger-than-life romance. Enter Rose and Jack, played by Kate Winslet and Leonardo DiCaprio. Rose is a 17-year-old Philadelphian forced into an unhappy engagement with an affluent 30-year-old named Cal Harkley, played by Billy Zane. Gosh, that's such an American name, I love it. Rose's mother is determined to fulfill this arrangement and sees it as an opportunity for her and Rose to maintain their aristocratic status. But Rose just doesn't fancy Cal in that way. Rightfully so, he's an arrogant little twit, as they come. Makes for a great antagonist though, or is the glacier technically the antagonist? Speaking of glaciers, consider this a spoiler alert for anyone who's been living under a rock for the last 110 years. The Titanic sinks. Back to Rose though, once aboard the ship, she finds herself so upset by this loveless engagement that she climbs over the stern railing and prepares to plunge into the frigid abyss of the North Atlantic Ocean. Yet Cal is that unlikable. Anyways, it's at this exact moment that 20-year-old Jack appears and convinces Rose to step back onto the deck. Their chemistry is immediate and explosive, and in a matter of seconds, the two strangers develop a bond that lasts an eternity. Naturally, Rose's mother and fiancé disapprove of Jack, especially since he's a poor artist who was only able to make it onto the Titanic after winning a ticket in a poker game. But such disapproval will not stand in the way of true romance, and soon Rose and Jack are in the middle of a fully fledged forbidden love affair, leading to some of the most notorious scenes to ever hit the big screen. These scenes include a nude sketching, paint me like one of your French women, a steamy handprint on a car, and the flying first kiss moment on the bow. And of course, the "I'll never let go, Jack" tragedy at the end.
I'll never let go. I promise.
Which caused a lot of controversy. There was plenty of room on the door. We all know that. It's called balance. Life was in the balance and all he had to do was figure out the balance. We're all mad at you, Rose, even though you're a fictional character. Kate Winslet, you're okay. Carol and Therese. Carol.
What a strange girl you are. Why? Flung out of space.
Next up, we have Carol and Therese from the 2015 romantic drama Carol, directed by Todd Haynes and written by Phyllis Nagy. The screenplay was based on the 1952 novel The Price of Salt by Patricia Highsmith, which was republished and retitled as Carol in 1990. The Price of Salt was semi-autobiographical, with Highsmith basing the character Therese on herself and taking inspiration from her time working as a sales clerk in the toy section of Bloomingdale's in 1948. She described one specific interaction with an elegant blonde woman in a mink coat who left such an impression on her that she went home that night and outlined a book in 2 hours, realising the next day that she'd been under the influence of chickenpox. That outline morphed into the story of a forbidden romance between 19-year-old Therese Bellevay and Carol Aird, an upper-class wife and mother in her 30s. The Price of Salt became the first ever lesbian novel to have a happy ending and was Highsmith's only novel about an unambiguous lesbian relationship, despite the author being openly gay. Screenwriter Phyllis Nagy befriended Highsmith while on assignment for the New York Times back in the late 80s, and the two remained close until Highsmith's passing in 1995. Nagy had felt a responsibility to ensure that the screen adaptation of Carol would stay true to the source material and spent nearly 2 decades trying to get it made. Several investors, actors, and directors came and went, feeling that the script was too risky because it featured a gay theme and 2 female leads.
Well, it would be great to catch a ride.
Yeah, sure.
You two have a wonderful night. Nice meeting you, Jack.
Nice meeting you.
Finally, Todd Haynes signed on with Cate Blanchett starring as Carol and Rooney Mara starring as Therese. Blanchett and Mara are electric, and audiences were unanimously moved by their characters' love-at-first-sight romance. Much like Rose and Jack, Carol and Therese come from different classes and backgrounds, and the prohibited nature of their affair only proved to ramp up their desires. Carol was ranked by the British Film Institute as the best LGBT film of all time, and the BBC named it one of the greatest films of the 21st century. Harry and Sally, when Harry met Sally.
You meet someone, you have the safe lunch, you decide you like each other enough to move on to dinner. You go dancing, you do the white man's overbite, go back to her place, you have sex, and the minute you're finished, you know what goes through your mind? How long do I have to lie here and hold her before I can get up and go home? Is 30 seconds enough?
That's what you're thinking.
When Harry Met Sally is a quintessential rom-com, one that seeks to answer the age-old question of, can men and women ever truly be strictly platonic friends? And the answer is, we still don't really know, because Harry and Sally can't seem to make up their minds. The film was written by Nora Ephron, who based Harry on an interview she conducted with director Rob Reiner, who had recently gone through a divorce. Ephron based Sally on herself and some of her friends. And though the film wasn't technically autobiographical, it was certainly inspired by real people and events. Ephron, being one of the greats and penning such superb dialogue, is a large part of what makes this film so relatable and charming. But what Meg Ryan and Billy Crystal bring to the 2 main characters is that special kind of magic, the one that morphs a great movie couple into an iconic one and lands them on this list. Crystal is Harry Burns and Ryan is Sally Albright, 2 college grads moving to the Big Apple to pursue their respective careers. When they're not arguing, they're trying to set each other up with their friends or questioning the roles of men and women in relationships. The 2 are almost the perfect couple. And when they're apart, they long for one another, even if they hate the idea of that.
There are 2 kinds of women, high maintenance and low maintenance.
And Ingrid Bergman is low maintenance?
And LM, definitely.
Which one am I?
You're the worst kind. You're high maintenance, but you think you're low maintenance.
I don't see that.
It's the epitome of can't live with them, can't live without them. We've all had someone like that in our lives, which is why audiences connect to Harry and Sally on such a deep level. Stylistically, Reiner shot the film like a true love letter to New York City, using staples of the city as backdrops and locations, like that one scene at the infamous Katz Delicatessen. You know, the whole, I'll have what she's having scene. It's still one of the most widely recognised moments in cinema history. When Harry Met Sally was unanimously praised by critics and audiences across the globe. Roger Ebert summed it up perfectly, writing that what makes this film special, apart from the Ephron screenplay, is the chemistry between Crystal and Ryan. Ennis and Jack, Brokeback Mountain.
I wish I knew how to quit you.
Then why don't you just let me be, huh?
Adapted from a 1997 short story, Brokeback Mountain is a romance drama directed by Ang Lee and written by Larry McMurtry and Diana Asana. It's the tale of a rodeo cowboy named Jack Twist, played by Jake Gyllenhaal, and ranch hand named Ennis Del Mar, played by the late Heath Ledger. The two men are hired as sheep herders in Wyoming, and one night as they're camping on Brokeback Mountain, Jack makes a drunken pass on Ennis, who reciprocates, and the two men develop a love affair that lasts 2 decades. Ennis ends up marrying his longtime sweetheart, Alma, and Jack marries a fellow rodeo rider named Lorene. But the two men maintain their relationship while attempting to hide its true nature. Even in the beginning, Ennis was far more reluctant to show affection than Jack, and there's good reason for that. When Ennis was a young boy, his father made it clear that being gay was not an option, and even showed him the body of a man who was tortured and killed for suspected homosexuality. But Jack was quicker to embrace his true feelings, and often spoke of creating an honest future with Ennis, living on a ranch in peace. Unfortunately, the two never make it there.
He used to say he wanted his ashes scattered on Brokeback Mountain, but I wasn't sure where that was. I thought Brokeback Mountain might be around where he grew up. Knowing Jack, it might be some pretend place where bluebirds sing and there's a whiskey spring.
It is a heartbreaking film filled with pain and longing and the torture of having to cloak one's true identity. In spite of that though, Ennis and Jack make a beautiful couple, shooting star soulmates that were destined to collide, though the world wouldn't accept such a fate. Quincy and Monica, love and basketball.
I'll play you.
What?
One game, one-on-one.
For what?
Your heart.
Gina Prince Bythewood wrote and directed Love and Basketball, the cult classic sports drama about love and basketball, but more specifically about two childhood friends who aspire to be professional basketball players. This leads us to the next iconic movie couple on our list, Quincy and Monica, played by Omar Epps and Sanaa Lathan. Quincy is a natural, and basketball runs in his family. His father, Zeke, is already a pro, playing for the Los Angeles Clippers. Monica's path isn't so clear-cut. As a girl, she has to work extra hard to establish herself. Despite their differences, Quincy and Monica immediately bond over their shared love of the sport, and as they blossom into young adults, their passion for the game and for each other only grows. That is until some drama unfolds at college and the couple breaks up.
You forgot to be there.
That night you wanted to talk about your dad, I had curfew. What was I supposed to do?
Stay.
If I stayed, I wouldn't be starting.
Or at least you got your priorities straight.
I never asked you to choose.
You never have to.
I'm a ball player. If anybody knows what that means, it should be you.
Quincy ends up playing for the LA Lakers, and Monica is now playing for the International Women's Basketball Association team in Barcelona. They're living out their childhood dreams, and they should be happy. Something's off though. When Quincy gets injured during a game, Monica flies home to see him, though Quincy is now engaged to another woman. Once Quincy heals, Monica challenges him to a high-stakes game of one-on-one. If she wins, Quincy must call off his wedding. He accepts the challenge and wins, but he knows deep down that Monica is his person, so he cancels his wedding anyway. Dude, as soon as you accepted that match, you already knew. In the end, Monica and Quincy end up together, with Monica playing for the newly established WNBA and Quincy and their daughter cheering her on. Princess Leia and Han Solo, Star Wars saga.
Stuck-up, half-witted, scruffy-looking nerf herder.
This next couple needs no introduction. I'm of course talking about Princess Leia and Han Solo from the Star Wars saga. Yes, even an epic space opera with Death Stars and lightsaber fights, Wookiees, Ewoks, and a small green Jedi who speaks in anastrophe. Still has a love story at its core. Let's just make sure to fast forward through the part where Luke falls in love with Leia, his own sister, and they smooch. Ooh, it's awkward. Okay, now that we're past that, let's continue. From the moment Han and Leia first meet in Star Wars A New Hope, you can feel the tension building. Yes, Han believes that Leia is a spoiled princess, and Leia views Han as a slimy, selfish smuggler who doesn't seem to take no for an answer, but we can see right through those incessant insults. We just know that these two are destined to end up together. George Lucas, being a master of story and suspense, makes us wait until Empire Strikes Back for the two to finally share their first kiss. But wow, it was worth that delay, because this kiss aboard Han's ship, the Millennium Falcon, is one of the most beautifully acted and perfectly scored moments in cinema history, and it symbolizes a turning point in Han and Leia's relationship.
Stop that.
Stop what?
Stop that. My hands are dirty.
My hands are dirty too. What are you afraid of?
Afraid?
You're trembling.
I'm not trembling.
You like me because I'm a scoundrel. There aren't enough scoundrels in your life.
I happen to like nice men.
Nice man.
Very nice.
Together, the two help save the galaxy from the evil Sith Lord Palpatine Sidious and his Imperial fleet, and eventually give birth to a son named Ben Solo. Unfortunately though, Ben is seduced by the dark side, changes his name to Kylo Ren, throws a lot of tantrums, has a lot of his own problems, and then he kills his father. But that's beside the point. Like all of the movie couples on this list, it's the real-life actors that make them shine. So shout out to Harrison Ford and the late and great Carrie Fisher for creating two of the most legendary characters to ever hit the silver screen. May the force be with you. Mark and Bridget, Bridget Jones' franchise.
Perhaps despite appearances, I like you very much.
Apart from the smoking and the drinking and the vulgar mother and the verbal diarrhea.
No, I like you very much. Just as you are.
The Bridget Jones franchise is based on Helen Fielding's novels of the same name, and the first of the 3 films was released in 2001. These movies were wildly popular, collectively grossing over $756 million and earning numerous accolades. But so much of that popularity can be attributed to the enthralling relationship between this next couple on our list, Mark Darcy and Bridget Jones, played by Colin Firth and Renee Zellweger. Bridget is, how dare she, 32 and working at a publishing company in London, where she obsesses over her weight and fantasizes about her boss, Daniel. Mark is an upper-class barrister, not to be confused with a barista who makes fancy latte art. He's introduced to Bridget at her parents' New Year party, though they grew up in the same neighbourhood and were childhood acquaintances. Much like Han and Leia, the two immediately butt heads. Mark finds Bridget to be foolish and vulgar, and Bridget thinks that Mark is arrogant and rude. But if Star Wars taught us anything, these are the makings of a loving relationship. Soon feelings start to develop, but not before Mark gets into a fistfight in the streets with his friend and Bridget's boss/pseudo-boyfriend, Daniel. This causes Bridget to reject both men, and Mark to eventually accept a job in New York with his new, soon-to-be fiancée. But like any good rom-com, things always get rocky before they pan out. And all of these events culminate in one of the most romantic scenes of all time, in which a pantsless Bridget chases after Mark and the two kiss in the snow-covered street.
It's only a diary. Everyone knows diaries are just full of crap.
I know that. I was just buying you a new one. Time to make a new start, perhaps.
It's worth noting that all sorts of baby drama unfold over the next 2 films, but the snow kiss seemed like a great place to wrap things up. Kevin and Chiron, Moonlight.
You always let them pick on you. So, what I gotta do? All you gotta do? Show these you ain't soft. But I ain't soft. I know. But it don't mean nothing if they don't know. Come on. You want these fools to pick on you every day? See, I knew you wasn't soft.
Moonlight was the first LGBTQ film to take home the Oscar for Best Picture, and supporting actor Mahershala Ali became the first Muslim to ever win an Oscar. This film was groundbreaking and defiant on so many levels, and centered around a love story between one couple, Chiron and Kevin. The movie is presented as 3 defining chapters in Chiron's life: childhood, played by Alex Hibbert, teenage years, played by Ashton Sanders, and adulthood, played by Trevante Rhodes. Chiron is born to a crack-addicted mother in a tumultuous Miami neighborhood, where he's humiliated for being gay at an early age and chooses to keep it a secret. Chiron and Kevin are childhood friends and share the pains of having to hide their true identities in a rough neighborhood. They grow closer, and one night on a beach, Kevin and Chiron kiss and become intimate. But the next day at school, Kevin is tricked into hazing and beating up Chiron and fears the repercussions of not giving into the peer pressure brought on by the other bullies. It's a difficult scene to watch, but a harrowing glimpse into how dangerous it is for Kevin and Chiron to be open about their sexuality. Now as adults, Chiron travels back to Miami and visits Kevin at his workplace. Though Kevin is now a father, he still thinks of Chiron and wonders what might have been.
And I just thought about you, man. We got this jukebox in here, and folks come by and play their songs. That's the music we get in here, and this dude, man, it's reminded me of you. So, hey, man, if you ever come to town, man, you come holler at me. I'll cook you something. Maybe play that song for you. All right, man. You be easy, all right?
Though their romance never fully came to fruition, their love for each other didn't falter. Jamal and Latika, Slumdog Millionaire.
Latika! Latika! Latika!
2008 Slumdog Millionaire was one of the most revered movies of the year and took home an impressive 8 out of 10 Oscar nominations. It's the story of 18-year-old Jamal Malik, played by Dev Patel, whose troublesome life on the streets of Mumbai equips him with an expansive array of knowledge. When Jamal lands himself on India's version of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, he uses this knowledge and experience to correctly answer questions and ultimately win the grand prize. But Jamal's true motivation for going on the show is to win the heart of his one true love, Latika, who he spent years of his life searching for. The two met as young orphans in the slums, but a series of unfortunate events ripped them apart, and Latika ends up living under the abusive control of a gangster named Javed.
Where are you?
I'm safe.
10 seconds. Latika, what do you think?
I don't know.
I've never known. Jamal, खुदा तुम्हारी क्या?
Jamal's brother, Salim, eventually helps Latika escape, and Jamal and Latika reunite at a train station and share one long-awaited kiss and dance. The journey that leads to this moment is tragic, gut-wrenching, but well worth to see these two lovebirds together at last. Dev Patel and Frida Pinto received critical praise for their performances and rose to prominence as a result of the film's success. Noah and Ali, The Notebook.
Go! I lost you once. I think I could do it again. If I thought it's what you really wanted. But don't you take the easy way out.
What easy way? There is no easy way. No matter what I do, somebody gets hurt.
Would you stop thinking about what everyone wants? Stop thinking about what I want, what he wants, what your parents want. What do you want?
And last up, we have the relationship that made me feel like I could never truly love again. It is Noah and Ali from 2004's The Notebook, directed by Nick Cassavetes and based on the Nicholas Sparks novel of the same name. The movie is way better than the book. Trust me on that. Ryan Gosling plays Noah, a mill worker in South Carolina, who falls desperately in love with a rich girl named Ali, played by Rachel McAdams. Ali is in town with her parents for the summer, and though she's crazy about Noah, her parents don't approve and forbid them from seeing each other. Ali and her family return to Charleston, and Noah writes Ali a letter every single day for a year. I wrote you every day for a year. Unaware that Ali's mother is intercepting these letters. Feeling deflated, Noah stops writing to Ali and enlists to fight in World War II. During this period, Ali meets a young lawyer, and the two become engaged, which her parents are thrilled about. When Noah returns from the war, he discovers that his father has sold their house so that Noah can buy and restore the Windsor plantation, which is what he promised he'd eventually do for Ali years earlier during their summer romance.
And you really did it.
What?
Everything. The house. It's beautiful what you did.
Well, I promised you I would.
Convinced that building this house will be enough to bring Ali back, Noah completes the job. Turns out he was actually right, because when Ali learns of this, she returns to Seabrook and finds Noah living in their dream house. Actually, first she faints, but then she runs to find Noah. And the two live happily ever after once the details with Ali's impending marriage and all that other fun stuff gets resolved. And there you have it, our picks for the most iconic movie couples. As always, we couldn't mention every notable couple to ever hit the big screen. That would just take way too much time and make me depressed. But don't fret, we've got plenty of RT Essential episodes coming right at ya, so I'm sure we'll get there eventually. Thanks again for tuning in. I'm Maud Garrett, and always remember, movie romances end for all kinds of reasons. But when all is said and done, they have one thing in common. They are shooting stars, a spectacular moment of light in the heavens, a fleeting glimpse of eternity. And then in a flash, they're gone. Never forget that.